Welcome to the Gen AI podcast, where the future meets fun and tech talk trends. Get ready to dive into the world of artificial intelligence like never before. Your hosts, Dale, Alan, Greg, and Val, are about to take you on a wild ride through the AI universe. So, buckle up, tune in, and let the AI adventure begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of the Gen AI podcast. We made it to 10, Al. Isn't this great?
Yay.
I think I've missed none. I can't say you or the other two have a clean record, but
No.
we've made it to 10 by hook or by crook. And
I've got a semi-clean record.
yeah, exactly. You're one of the low offenders. Is that the right way to put it? Let's tell everyone where I am first, because last episode we spoke about you on the other side of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are you?
I am actually in Manchester at the ACOST-E conference. For those that don't know, the ACOST-E conference is specifically for project controls folk, and in a different way to the Project Controls Expo, it complements it where it's more about not about exhibiting products or what services are in the market, but more about sharing ideas and thoughts and how to move forward. And from that perspective, it's been quite interesting because there has been quite a lot of chat around AI in project controls. And I was in one of the talks yesterday, and it was standing room only talking about, how we best utilize it. And I guess the conclusion in the controls community is that there's always going to be a human layer with AI, and AI needs to be used as a tool to enhance what we're doing. And I think there is a general will to adopt, which is promising and really exciting. But I think people are still a little bit, they're not sure where to start, if I can put it that way. Because there are various questions on how, what do I do first? Where do I go? And there's so many, it's a difficult question to answer, right? Because there's so many different angles to go down. Because if you're a project controls person, you're probably using spreadsheets in some way, shape, or form. You're possibly using Primavera P6 or Microsoft Project. You may be using
Other software is available.
Other software is available. We're not trying to sell software, but on the probabilities of what people are using in terms of tools.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting question posed was, well, we generally, this is the misconception, I think. One of the questions was, we need lots of data, and people need to bring data together and share data so that we can, use the data. And I like the response. The response was, well, actually, we actually have more data than we realize. It's just not in a structured format, and it's not integrated, it's not brought together. And that got people thinking. They went, oh, actually, you're right. We use cost data, we use scheduling data, health and safety data. There are risk registers and things like that. So there is a lot of data. And the general consensus, and I know I'm sort of bringing it back to first principles, is if you have that data in a structured way, you apply cloud computing to that data where you automate the flow, where it's not sitting in a spreadsheet and locked away. And then you can automate that so you have near real-time insights using your data. Now, if you can automate that all the way from bringing data from site, whether it's using video or logging things through different types of tools that are in the market, video feed, pictures, whatever it is, then all of a sudden you can get site to office near real-time data. Information, insights. So it was a really, really fascinating conversation to see that there is intrigue in the UK, because I know your feedback was sort of the other side, of the spectrum, where it didn't feel like a big interest in it when you were in the US. But it's pleasing to see that here in Manchester there is an interest in it, and I think there's more and more. I think there's going to be a higher uptake as we go, and how we take people along the journey will be great. And I got some feedback for this podcast, Al. You'll be pleased to know.
Okay, good.
People are really happy that we're putting this out there and sharing the views as well. And so, I mean, shout out someone I know from the IPA here yesterday and today, and they thanked us for looking, at what was released, and both, the devil's advocate view as well, because that helps them improve. So there are people listening to us, which is great. So
we know where the first branded hat is going then.
The first branded hat. You get branded hats.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my feedback for you. I don't know if you wanted to.
Well, we had feedback before that we need to mine for conflict a little bit more, right? Because we can't just be an echo chamber. Would it be fair to say that ACOST-E is the UK's version of the AACE, in a sense?
Potentially. So
even though the ACE has a UK chapter, so it's a little bit weird of a comparison.
Yeah. So I haven't looked too much into the AACE, but what I know about the AACE is that they're more into sort of the cost risk estimating space, where although the ACOST-E, which stands for Association of Cost Engineers, originally was cost, they actually expanded that beyond just cost. So they include planning, scheduling, risk, data, the full spectrum of project controls. And so they're actually going through a phase where they're looking at how they sort of rebrand, because everyone believes ACOST-E is just cost. So that's interesting. So watch this space as well.
So the paradox here is that what you've said is exactly true about AAC as well.
Okay.
And actually, you've demonstrated that the stereotype has not gone away, right?
No,
because you said AAC is about cost, and I feel that it is pretty much the same topics, and it's all about project controls. Okay, so I'm going to draw my own conclusion that if you're a member of one, you could very likely also be a member of the other, and it'll be the same topics and the same, definitely the same slice of the industry anyway. And just for, if there are audiences out there, who knows, we might be international, Dale. Right?
We may be.
Who knows, right? So I'm trying to help position it. Yeah, and the A, the C, and the E in AAC and ACOST-E are the same words, so that's why I imagine they would be very similar. But now I'm going to mine for conflict, because nothing of what you described is AI, is it? It's just data
not.
pipelines and analytics, and it all ends at a dashboard, right? So we could have done that 10 years ago.
So you're 100% correct. And you're right, although for me, and this is where you can school me, Al, for me, if we don't take people along the journey first to understand what you need to apply AI, then we're failing. Because if we just give them AI and they don't understand it, then that we failed on people to be able to use it and understand it properly. The second thing is that we know we need data in a certain format to be able to apply AI. It isn't AI, but if you don't have AI, if you don't have the data in the right format or don't know how to put it in the right format, you can't apply AI to the data. That's the view.
Maybe it's starting to become the other way around, right? Unstructured data is turning out basically since Transformers and BERT and all these things in 2018, unstructured data is turning out to be easier to use in many cases than structured data, right? Because now we have vector search, we have all these things. So you can put, I guess, you can put some models that work on unstructured data, and I'm gonna try and keep it as generic as possible, in the middle of your data pipeline, so you can do the transformations without having to create structure. Right? And this is kind of also part of the problem, right? When people normally think about data, they always jump to tabular data as a synonym, right?
Okay.
And we forget that tabular data is actually a very small proportion of data that is available. And really, we should talk about data as quantity of information, or anything that carries information, right? So, you have video, image, all these things, but you also have non-tabular, and by tabular I literally mean stuff that you can put in Excel, right? That is structured data, and it's what people normally think about when they talk about data. But there's all sorts of other things. All that stuff is now going into pipelines, right? And so, sure, like pipelines have gotten wider because it's easier for people to take unstructured data. And that is one of the things that transformers and vector search and other things in machine learning have been able to enable, I guess. But really, the question remains the same. It's the same question that I got in 2017 when we were starting out. It's the same question that anyone who produces a dashboard gets, which is, now what? Yeah. What do I do with it? Right? And the what do I do with it, I think, is where AI comes in. Because then you can do things by taking information and or summarized information, which sure, GPT models are great at doing, and LLMs are great at doing, but you've summarized information. It's still just information that's going to sit there, right? Information that's going to sit there does nothing for you unless you do something with it. And I think this is where the change is going to come. The AI is going to help you do things with the data. In fact, we're starting to see it in a lot of products now where the AI agent is no longer, most of them are still just chatbots and you can chat to the information in front of you. But a lot of the AI agents that stand out are the ones that do things. Right? So, and text generation is the simplest, lowest hanging fruit in this, right? You have a thread of emails and says respond, and you say respond to this email. These are my bullet points, and it writes a long email for you, right? Yep. And in a formal way, because you're talking to a set of stakeholders, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. Okay, great. That's done a thing for you, but it's saved you 5 minutes.
On that, can I ask a question? So sorry to pull you off your thought there. I heard that AI, and a lot of people think AI is ChatGPT, right? We've covered that, and we'll continue saying it because as we get new listeners,
other models are available, other systems are available, and other ways of doing machine learning and AI are available.
Absolutely, yes. It's not just ChatGPT. But one of the things that I heard recently was that ChatGPT, large language models, AI is good with words right now and not that good with numbers. Is that true?
It's a difficult question to answer because LLMs are bad at doing maths in text.
Yes.
So if you write what is 4 plus 5, and 4 plus 5 it probably gets right, but if you write some semi-complex mathematical equation or calculation and hand it over to an LLM, you shouldn't expect exact maths, right? It'll still get the orders of magnitude right. It'll get very close, right? But it's still just, predicting the next token, right? And we've got to remember that is what it's doing. So yeah, sure, LLMs aren't great at doing exact numeric calculation. However, there are two things that need to be said on this. One is that the whole of machine learning is a giant pile of very complex maths. So you can get machine learning models that do calculations very well. In fact, there are, and this is from many years ago, but there are, and I'm saying this because probably this a lot of people know more about what this is nowadays thanks to Netflix. But there are there are models that get used, machine learning models that get used as surrogates for calculating three-body trajectories and orbital calculations much faster than the numerically stable methods, right? So you can do very, very complex maths with machine learning. You're not going to do it with an LM. The second point is that all you have to do is, instead of using an LLM, presumably, and pretty much all LLMs that get exposed to the public nowadays are not just the raw LLM, they're an agent, right? And all you have to do is give an agent a calculator.
Yeah.
Right? Which is actually what happens, right? Like OpenAI has the data analyst. If you ask it to do some complex maths, it's going to hand it over to the data analyst / used to be called code interpreter, right? The other thing that I found really great on this end is, this was when we were testing Barry very, very early on, and we were comparing lots of different models as well. And we got GPT-4 to write some code. This is, I think, before GPT-4 was general availability, so it didn't have as many guardrails around it. But we got GPT-4 to write some code, and this was the raw model. It didn't have the data assistant, the data analyst. So we got it to write some code, and then we said, run this code. And it was, I can't remember what it was. It was some calculation using p-values from the outputs of a distribution and convoluting them together. I cannot remember. But it wasn't something that, you do on a bit of paper anyway. And I said, run this code on the inputs that you have and give me the outputs that you would get. What would this code output? And then I ran it separately, and it actually got it right. Just the LLM got it right to the 5th decimal digit.
Wow.
Right. So some things can still be done very well. So it's very easy, and people love doing this, right? Like, we love going and looking for the one thing that any new technology, this is true of humanity, has been true forever, right? One thing that new technology can't do very well, and therefore using that as evidence that the new technology doesn't work. And that is like a very self-defeating game to play, because then you're going to be proven wrong very quickly.
Yeah, it's like reference class forecasting.
No comment. I've been told by marketing that I'm not allowed to comment publicly on reference class forecasting because they know my opinions.
But I can. And it's interesting with reference class forecasting because it's a little bit like Marmite. I've been told as well. Reference class forecasting. I don't know if it's like Marmite. I actually think my view on it is that if it's being touted as the only way or the silver bullet into improving forecasts and and delivery, then it's not. You can't simplify projects and reduce it to reference class forecasting. There's so much evidence out there to completely blow it out of the water. And do we actually have the evidence that RCF works? I've not seen it. So
I'll preface all of this with a public apology to Colin, who's going to have to backpedal on everything I'm going to say next. Anyway, I'm gonna, look, there is something that is just inherently rational and intelligent about the idea of, if I'm doing something, I should go and look at things that have been done in the past that are similar, right?
Yeah.
That part of RCF should just be called common sense. And if you weren't doing this before the invention of RCF, then you need to take a long, hard stare in the mirror, because it means that you think you know more than the rest of the planet, right? And I don't mean you, Dale, right? But there is also, and we know this about project controls in general, the fact that RCF mostly has become an exercise in cherry picking the set that I like, so I get the result that I want, so that I can prove, which is actually the thing that happens to QSRAs, right? Why does MPlan not allow anyone to change the probability distributions on QSRAs? Is because immediately what you see happening is that cherry picking shows up, right? I like this, I don't like that. And you end up getting a result that you like, but isn't true. And that, I think, is the problem, right? Because the RCF allows, in fact, it is entirely based on cherry picking.
Yeah.
Because it's down to you to go and find what are the projects that are similar and what are the ones that are not. And depending on whatever criteria and heuristic that you've come up with, you're going to end up with a different set.
Yeah.
And how meaningful is it, right? So how close are those things? Don't get me wrong, it's still better than doing nothing. Right?
No, absolutely. I think,
because then you've had the exercise of having to think about other things and how they did them. And that is, I guess, the benefit, right? Like, you should basically do RCF and throw away all the numbers and only look at the stories of the things that have been built.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, and there was chats, there were discussions yesterday, presentations around why RCF doesn't work, and there's plenty of evidence out there. And I
have a meme that I've been banned from sharing. Maybe we could share it on the podcast page.
Maybe we could. And so I'm hoping that Ian Heptonstall, who presented on trying to debunk it, will come on the Project Chatter podcast. So we'll peel back the layers on that, Al. And if you get permission, you're welcome to join us on that too.
We could do a whole session on,
Yeah.
In fact, we'd invite Bent to try and defend it.
Yeah,
he's never going to come, right?
Well, I'd love to have Bent on to defend himself as well, to make it fair. But yeah, let's see. We'll send the invites out. There's public invites as you're listening to this episode, folks. If you know Bent, give him a nudge for us as well, and we'll see what we can do.
The gauntlet has been thrown.
Exactly. But we need discourse and debate. We need people to provide perspectives, and this is what we're doing as well. So
we're mining for conflict, Dale. Mine for conflict. Let's let's have some arguments
in a productive, forward-looking way.
Of course, but also a little bit entertaining because it's a podcast.
Absolutely.
And if it's not entertaining, people are not going to come and listen.
No, exactly.
And how else are we going to afford the hats?
Exactly. It's not for my good looks either that people, or my soothe.
I mean, definitely not mine.
Not my soothe sultry tones either. But anyway, maybe there are other reasons. Look, we're going to keep this one short today. We don't have a lot of time. So what did you want to put on the table? We've probably got about maybe 5 or 10 minutes that we can cover another topic.
I don't have a lot to put on the table. There's a couple of tiny bits of news. Anthropic have released things like you now can have a company plan, which means that Anthropic is starting to push in to OpenAI's, what I would call it, safe space, right? So OpenAI's safe space has always been the enterprise, because actually OpenAI is what powers Microsoft Copilot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I include that in OpenAI safe space. So Anthropic is trying to push in. They made an amazing move, which is you can now call Claude on any of the cloud providers as well. So if you're building agents, that turns out very handy. There's actually, I think that was the only bit of news that I can remember right now. Can you remember any, Dale?
I'm just trying to look back what we posted on our page the past sort of week or so. Microsoft introduced VASA-1, VASA.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
there's new models coming up all the time, right? I think one of the interesting thoughts here on the new models, and like Salesforce have a new model, and pretty much all of them, right? Databricks, etc. Is that everybody? Oh no, Llama 3, right? Llama 3 is the big news. I forgot about that for a minute. Yeah, Llama 3 is the big news. But like new models in general, they're all pushing towards planning.
Yeah.
Right. So, and maybe this could be like an educational segment. Let's do a little jingle for the educational segment of the podcast. All AI agents have a component inside them, which is the planner. So basically what you do is you have a question from the user, and you know that you have a certain data set and a certain set of actions that you can take, right? Say that you have an AI agent inside a dashboard, and your agent could pull data out of the dashboard. It could create a new chart. It could send an email, those things, right? You give it all the options, right? These are the tools. For those familiar with OpenAI, this is basically how the Assistants API works. You have this planner module where you give it all this information and it decides what needs to be done, right? And the way it does it is that you basically stack all of this into a prompt, hand it over to the model, and you ask the model to give you back a JSON, which is just a specific text format that is machine passable, of the list of tools that it wants to call with what parameters and how, right? And that is literally called the planning component of the AI agent, right? And right now, that is the bottleneck on good AI agents. The plans that come out are unreliable. So you can have the same exact things going in, and one day, you see it if you try the data analyst on ChatGPT, you'll see it that like sometimes it just fails and tries stuff that doesn't work, and then it gives up, and then you try again and it works. So they're unreliable. They take actions that have no meaning. Like I look at even the logs for Barry. I'd love to claim that Barry is an amazing agent, and in a sense, it's a good agent. But even the planning components in Barry sometimes do things that don't make sense, right? So you'll have one that actually I can tell you about, which we had to fix recently. And basically we play whack-a-mole with these things on the back, right? So we monitor all the logs, and we see what question was asked, what was the action that the agent took, and does it make sense, right? So what happens is an example of this is we have one tool that can search the schedule for activities, right? And it is literally a vector search on the schedule activities by name. And there are some times, and the agent takes a lot of actions, and so these actions end up being just basically meaningless and a waste of time. But if you ask something about probability levels, I sometimes find that the agent in the back is searching activities for a name that contains P50, right? Which is not going to ever work, right? So it just misinterprets the meaning of the tools. So the focus of new models is all on being better planners, right? Better agentic behavior. And in a sense, that's basically, if you want to do a neuroscientific analogy, that's the prefrontal cortex part, right? It is system one that's planning what to do. And everybody's working incredibly hard on this. So Llama 3 is supposedly, I haven't tested it yet, mostly because of travel, but I'm probably going to sit down this weekend. Llama 3 is supposedly very good at this. This is actually a problem that we're working on. I made some posts last week and this week, but it's something that everybody's working on, and I think this is the direction of travel, right? And it's less about understanding English, because models now understand English. It is definitely not about memorizing more information, because now we have very good retrieval augmented generation, so you can go search things, you can go search on the internet. You don't need to build too much new data, you need to make them better planners. And I think this is, this was my bit.
No, that's awesome, and it's great to share. And we'll wrap up in a bit, but I'll leave a bit of a cliffhanger, because there is other news, and you probably not saying it because this isn't a sales podcast.
No,
but
yeah,
you shared something the other day that I know you've spoken to me offline about this for some time, that you guys have done with just taking simple text from a web page, dropping it in, and it creates a schedule for you. I'm going to leave the cliffhanger there because I want people to go and check out your post.
Yeah, maybe I should caveat. This is, this is not something that we're selling, so please don't get in touch saying that you want to buy this, because it is very, very far from production ready.
Yeah.
It is a demo. of, and anyone who's followed our AI days knows that we're building GraphGen for several reasons, right? So it's a capability demo of the model, but I don't think that's actually how we're going to use the model in the end. It's just that the model can actually do that, and it's a nice side effect.
Absolutely, it's huge for me. If you're a planner going, I can do this so much quicker, and then just validate it, and then the next step is, as you say, there's still quite a few steps to go. But please go and check out what Al posted.
Yeah.
When was it? Last week? I think it was last week.
Yeah, it was. Maybe it was this week.
Well, this week?
No,
the weeks just go by.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Recent.
Go check out Al's web page. Go check out Al's LinkedIn page.
Podcast only fun nugget. We pasted in a lasagna recipe, and we got. I mean, it works. If you follow it, you would get a lasagna, but it was I think 150 activity schedule for making a lasagna. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Right. And it was the project controls version of a lasagna for sure. Because it had things like verify that all ingredients have been sourced correctly and do procurement on the ingredients. I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
We definitely overtrained it on certain data.
That's amazing. But look, folks, we have to leave it there. I'm about to get kicked out of this room. So we thank you for joining us on another episode. Thank you, Al, for your time. Once again, episode 10. I've had 10 lessons now. So thank you, and Greg, very much for taking me along my AI journey, if no one else. We'll leave it there,
hopefully some more. Definitely not Val, but
exactly. But thank you very much. We'll catch you on the next episode, and bye for now.
Bye.